Yo, what's good, guys? We are back at it again with another MLB The Show video for you guys, and today I'm going to be tier listing all of the outfielders that I think you guys should be using heading into this second kind of part of Season 2 for ranked, for events, whatever you're playing at this point in time. So real quick, before we get into it, I would urge you guys, if you do enjoy the content, feel free to like and subscribe. I'm going to be keeping you guys up to date about the best cards in the game all year. And yeah, let's get into it. So, Judge, decent card, really good bat. He didn't really get the roster update I was personally hoping for. He's been going absolutely ballistic in real life, and as a result of that, I think they actually dropped his contact against lefties, which is crazy. So he's 75, 90. The power is just immaculate, especially when you look at kind of how they've done this card. If you give him the P5, he's max power against both sides. I think that's very helpful. It helps us overall out. So absolutely insane with the bat. I think he has a much better swing than in previous years. And then 90 clutch, which I think is actually down. So really the issue with him is the fielding. He's almost a DH, and I almost want to drop him down to B tier. I think the only thing that's keeping him in the A tier is you can get him when he's up on the inside edge at certain points, and just kind of where we're at in the season. You kind of have to pick and choose your battles. You can either have a really good hitting outfield that is really slow and miserable on defense, or you can have a really good defensive outfield that can't hit a lick. So that's kind of where we're at. There's not many cards that can do everything at this point, so you kind of have to pick your battles and kind of weight that when you're looking at a lot of these cards. Adam Dunn, similar to Aaron Judge, maybe even a better bat at this point. I like Aaron Judge's power more. I probably like his swing more. But look at the teams that Dunn makes: 93, 91, 90, 110 power. Very good clutch also with 97, but again, absolutely miserable in the field. 62 reaction, 41 speed. So that's really tough, but he is a primary left fielder, so realistically him and Judge are probably looking like very similar fielders for a lot of people. Home Run Derby Duvall always kind of has a decent swing in the show, but you're gonna see these contact stats. They are on par with Judge, if not worse. So 80 contact left, 82 right, 110 power against both sides, 87 clutch, so that kind of helps him out a little bit. And then the fielding isn't terrible: 76 speed, 79 reaction, with a pretty decent arm out there. Primary left fielder. Maybe you make the argument you prefer him over both of these other guys. I guess it just kind of depends on what the inside edge on Judge is looking like on the day. El Bombi Adolis Garcia, not my favorite card in the world. This is a all-star demon card in the flesh. This is the definition of that. 66 contact basically against both sides, and then 97 power, so not even really that crazy of power. 86 clutch doesn't really offset the contact being that bad. It helps, but it doesn't really offset it. 87 reaction, 78 speed, 80 fielding with a crazy arm. So again, kind of going back to what I was talking about, if you're on All-Star, this card might look like a god to you, honestly. He's going to hit tanks, and he's going to play his position at a very, very high level like not a lot of cards will at this point of the season. But if you are a high All-Star player playing against good players with good pitchers, or if you're on Hall of Fame, or God forbid if you're on Legend, this card's not making your lineup. Maybe as a defensive sub, but in general, not making your lineup. Bregman can actually play left field. A lot of people probably don't know that about this card. Can slot into left field. There's a ton of cards that can just slot into left field. 104 contact left, 93 right, 81 power left, 93 power right, 125 clutch, with not terrible fielding and not terrible speed. I think he might be S tier. Look at the quirks on Bregman. He just gets a ridiculous amount. Oh, no, he doesn't. I guess that was last year where Bregman had crazy quirks. Or recently they've actually been editing quirks, which I've kind of taken a gripe with in the past. I think his swing's still good. Maybe him having like no quirks will kind of drag him back down to A tier. We'll just have to see how the rest of the list pans out. 93 McCutcheon. So this card will definitely be a center fielder, so that's gonna hurt him. So center field, so he's going to lose reaction because I guarantee you he's not fast enough. Yeah, 85 speed, not ideal for center field at this point. 72 reaction, 70 fielding. 110 power basically against both sides, 98 clutch, 93 contact left, 82 contact right. And it's McCutcheon. His swing is unreal, so that's a plus. His quirks aren't really there for some reason. I thought maybe the 91 we got earlier in the year did have good quirks, but maybe I was just tripping. He's still decent. He's still all right. Just know he's kind of a defensive liability. I think that kind of drops him in this tier with Judge and Dunn, where, you know, the power's good, the contact's better than those guys, but it's still not ideal. Santander, probably just B tier based off his statistics right now. A plus fielder, honestly, for this point of the season, but the hitting stats just aren't that great. So, depending on how much value you put on his swing and the fact that he's a switch hitter, you could probably argue A tier. I don't think I'm necessarily ready for that conversation, especially with kind of the uptick we're getting in those S tier outfielders at this point. Austin Riley, probably, you know, A tier. Very solid hitter, basically has 90 in every single hitting stat, 92 clutch, 80 fielding, 67 reaction. You do have to keep that in mind because he's going to lose 5 for playing in a secondary. And then 73 speed, so not really even slow. Doesn't have the worst quirks in the world. Not a bad card. Not a bad card, just, you know, similar on a defensive level to a lot of those other guys. And doesn't really bring you the power that a lot of those other guys do. The Bambino, obviously S tier. You know, he's basically the best at every position he plays. He's one of the better starters in the game right now. He's one of the better outfielders. He's one of the better DHs. He's one of the better first basemen. So anywhere you want to play Babe, he is top tier. And that's kind of the beauty of that card. Moving on. Bernie Williams. He's solid. I think my issue with him has always kind of been the power, but if you are a Hall of Fame or a legend guy and you feel like you need that contact, can be a very solid option. But 73 power against both sides is kind of a turnoff for me. 101 clutch, decent fielder, but not fast, so you probably don't want to play him in center field, so he's probably going to lose 5 reaction anyway. Just not really a center fielder, but if you want to play him in a corner spot, definitely will be a plus defender at that point. Brett Wisley, not too sure how you say that. His biggest tool is his versatility, but his hitting stats aren't bad either. 187, 81 power against left, little lower than you like, but is what it is. 106 power against right, 107 clutch. 79 fielding, so, you know, the arms poo-poo. The reaction isn't great, and then 67 speed, so not a great defender. And kind of the beauty of him is you can play him anywhere. So again, outfield, probably not his best position in the world, probably more of like a Santander guy than a lot of those top tier bats, but not a terrible card either. This Harper card, like probably B tier. Maybe that's being harsh. 82-80, so it doesn't really rake against either side contact-wise. 103 power against right, 90 power left, 120 clutch. That's his best attribute by far. He's one of the better clutch bats in the game. But you can see the fielding is absolutely brutal. Only has 59 speed, and it would be a secondary position for him. So I think he's bad enough on defense and doesn't really give you the bat that a lot of these other guys do, that I don't think he's worth that tier up. The live series, you can make an argument that I believe the physicals are probably worse on this card. Like, he's probably slower. No, he's the same speed. I think the reaction's worse. I think the fielding's worse. The clutch is better. You can make the argument that depending on what day it is and what his inside edge looks like, that the live series is as good, if not better, than the other one. But I think they are very, very similar cards, at least until the next roster update. 99 Chipper Jones, is there even anything to talk about? He's not even a bad fielder, honestly. He'd probably be a plus left fielder for this point of the season. Maxed out contact against both sides, 102 power left, 115 power right, maxed out clutch. So arguably the best hitter in the game, considering he's a switch hitter. 82 fielding, 78 reaction, 70 speed. You put some parallels on this guy, he will be a plus defensive left fielder at this point of the season. And even at the end of the season, he'll be a good defensive left fielder, or at least a bang-on average one. Chris Morrell, I almost want to leave him in S tier. I got to kind of look at his stats because I've been around with the captain boost for so long. 84 contact left, definitely lower than what you want. 90 contact right, not ideal either, but 103 power left, 107 power right, so that's more on par with those derby cards. Clutch being his highest stats, always a plus. And then 70 fielding, 67 reaction, 90 speed, can play all of these different positions. Can play every outfield position. The speed is a huge plus for him. Big fan of that card, especially for 40K. I think he's an absolute steal, even at this point of the season. Corbin Carroll as an outfielder, one of your better defensive right field options for sure. 99 speed, 90 reaction, 81 fielding, which doesn't even really matter. Really, the problem with him is he swings a toothpick. Maybe against righties, you can argue it's kind of like that Lou Brock effect, where he'll just, hit enough perfects that it won't really matter. But against lefties, that's brutal, right? You already have the handedness disadvantage. 52 power, not doing you any favors. The clutch also isn't in an awesome spot for him. Really, if you're running him, it's for the captain boost, and you'll just kind of take the defense in stride for sure. But you'll just hit him ninth in your lineup, and it's kind of an Arenado situation. More so better on like those higher tiers of ranked. Dalton Varsho, the infamous catcher that can play the outfield. 87 contact left, 88 right, 66 against lefties, 90 power right, 103 clutch. And not a defensive liability by any means, not a bad card in the outfield. But not somebody I'm prioritizing running. I think I prefer... This might be harsh, but I think El Bombi gets pushed down. I think these two do also, because I'd rather use everybody else in this B tier over all of those other cards. Carlson, definitely a step down from Santander, in my opinion. Santander's the better defensive guy. I think he has the better swing. But Carlson's decent, and, he brings some interesting stuff to your team. Definitely, if you need a switch hitter, he's up there. Eddie Rosario, his swing is insane. The power left on this card is really bad, but the swing is insane. Always has a really good swing. 90 contact left, 92 right, 65 power left, 85 power right, 108 clutch. Like I said, always a plus. 71 reaction, 78 fielding, 61 speed. So not a terrible defender, but also not a plus defender by any means, assuming you're leaving him in his primary of left. Not too bad, honestly. Not a bad card at all. If you haven't used him, try him out for sure. He has one of those Juan Soto, Yordan Alvarez lefty swings where lefty isn't a chore with him. It's a very interesting dynamic. If he gets a better card later in the year, could definitely be an interesting card to look at. Estuy Ruiz, absolute dog on the Devers team. On Devers, I think you easily make the argument for him being S tier. It helps out his power an absolute ton, especially if you want to put some parallels on him. Without the Devers team, meh. 100 contact left, 97 contact right, 81 power left, 71 power right. So that's getting into that lower territory. It's still better than a card like Bernie, but it's not ideal. 125 clutch, definitely a big plus for the card. 74 fielding, 76 reaction. I was all for the low fielding, but I would like to see higher reaction, especially for somebody you're going to probably play in center field, just because you're not really getting guys that are this fast at that point in the season. So I would like for the reaction to be higher, but he's still a fine card. I think on Devers, easily S tier. Arguably has a real argument for the best. I'm all over the place for the best center fielder in the game right now. But we kind of got some new cards that kind of challenge that. So I think he drops to A tier without the boost. With the boost, argue your heart's desire. Tatis, absolutely brutal. This card can't hit a lick. They did kind of help him out a little bit in the recent roster update, but 57 contact left. You are not using that. Unless you are an all-star player, you are not using that. No shot. And then the power is not even good to offset it. The clutch isn't good. He is a pure defensive outfielder, and I just cannot condone a right-handed Kevin Kiermaier. Like, there's just no shot. George Springer. Although I will say his swing got a lot better this year. This card is super mid to me. I don't know how this card's a 92 overall, especially as it's because he's a right fielder. If this card was a center fielder, there's no way he'd be a 92. He would be much lower than that, I think. 78 contact left, 88 contact right, 81 power left, 88 power right, 72 clutch on a card that they want people to buy a pack for. And then 74 fielding, 74 reaction, 65 speed. This card is awful. If you're using them, it's for the swing, right? Springer always has a really good swinging game. But this ain't it. This is not his card. I'd rather use the captain card from season 1 than touch that card. Stanton, if you enjoyed the Marlins Stanton that we had earlier in the year, this one's very good also. Very similar to that card. Definitely not the all-around card that Marlins Stanton was. This is more of like a DH, 63 speed, 65 reaction, 67 fielding. You're getting into Judge territory at that point. But the plus is that he's a primary right fielder. So if you wanted to slot him in at right field, he probably would be better than Judge defensively. I just don't really think the bat's there. Not really my favorite swing in the world also. Grady, he was a collection reward update card. So they kind of added him as like one of the stepping stone tiers in the seasonal awards. Or not seasonal awards, but the seasonal collections. 75 contact left. That's tough. 95 contact right. 81 power left. 92 power right. So the usual Grady Sizemore card. Absolutely rakes against righties. Not super fast, but also not a bad, defensive guy. He's a defensive center fielder that absolutely matters. This is like an upgraded Jason Hayward, honestly. That's kind of where he slots in my opinion. If that's what you're looking for in your rank stat, I think that's fine, but I don't know how much value I can put on it, especially when we got some better center fielders coming up, like Jackson Merrill. I think this is a better card. He's a free card. You can go grind in the season collection. 90 contact left, 95 contact right, 82 power left, 70 power right. So the power is definitely a step back, but 97 clutch, 85 fielding, 76 speed, 82 reaction. So the reaction helps him out a little bit. Means you'll be able to put him in a corner outfield spot because he's not quite as fast as you probably want a center fielder to be. Joey Gallo, I do remember this card. I believe he hit a home run off of Aroldis Chapman that game, if I'm not too mistaken. It was definitely somebody like that. So interesting card, an absolute all-star demon card. 83 contact left, 75 contact right, maxed out power, decent clutch, always has a halfway decent swing. Joey Gallo is always, in my opinion, hard to hit with lefty-lefty, but feels like a god against righties, and that's kind of how this card's going to be. Again, probably better as like a third baseman or a first baseman or even a DH, but he can hold his own in the outfield, and it's nice that he's a primary left fielder, so if you do want to play him in the outfield, he won't be too much of a liability. More so a Hall of Fame demon card, but probably usable, or an all-star demon card. But probably usable in Hall of Fame. If you're a legend player, you're skipping right over this card. But if you play on those lower difficulties, definitely usable. Jose Ramirez, gotta drop him to B. I gotta drop him to B. There's just no way you're running this card out there when he has 61 contact right. If you, again, I feel like I'm saying this a lot this video. If you're an all-star player, this is such a good card for you. Like, he should probably be in your lineup. If he's not, I don't know why he's not. Obviously, probably best as a second baseman or even just left at third. But does have that flexibility to play third. They changed the swing up a little bit this year. I'm not the biggest fan of what they've done to it. This year, they've kind of given him a more pronounced leg kick. Whereas in the past, I feel like it was just stride and swing. Now it's more of a high leg kick. But 86 power left, 87 power right, a switch hitter, 105 clutch, really nice. Honestly, if you're running a God squad and you just want to throw him on your bench to be a late game bench bat, that's a switch hitter, so you'll at least always have the handedness advantage. Maybe not a bad idea there. Definitely not the best defensive player, though. 63 speed, 77 reaction, so he's going to lose 5 in the outfield. Not terrible in the outfield, but really you're using them for the switch hitting ability and the power. Again, if you're an all-star player, I'm sure he ranks a lot higher for you. Soto, this is a very good DH. I don't think I would run him in the outfield, but there's a lot of the guys in this A tier where ideally you're probably DHing them. Soto's like that. The only real problem with this card is the 67 power left. That's really rough to use, but the contact's in a good spot. The power right's in a good spot. The clutch is in a really good spot, but defensively, he is going to be a headache for you. He's going to drop some balls. His range is going to be really limited in the outfield, and that's just kind of what it is. With a lot of these guys that hit really well, they're going to be poor defensive outfielders. 99 Griffey, is there any doubt where this card's going? This is the best center fielder probably for the whole season. Barring us getting like a chase card Mickey Mantle or something, or a surprise collection Mickey Mantle, this is the best center fielder in the game, possibly for the rest of the year. I'm sure they'll give Trout some type of card eventually, but until then, Griffey is the best center fielder until further notice. 104 contact left, 116 contact right, 115 power left, 120 power right, 107 clutch. Absolutely insane in the field. The problem is the speed. 81 speed is historically low for a 99 Griffey, right? He's already 99 overall. He's not going to go to 100 if you give him 90 speed. I don't know why they decided to kind of nerf him a little bit. Means that for right now, he probably is one of your better defensive options in center field just because of the really high reaction, and maybe you put some parallels on him. But later in the season, he's probably transitioning more to like left, right field, something like that. But as of right now, absolutely insane option in the outfield. 90 Griffey. I just don't see why anybody's using this card. A lot of people argued for him last season. 62 contact left. That's brutal. 83 contact right. Decent enough. 78 power left. Pretty brutal. 101 power right. 91 clutch, and then this Griffey's not even fast either, with not really the greatest reactions. If you want to run them, if you want to just use a Griffey card that's halfway decent in center field, maybe this is your one, but for me personally, I'm good on him. This Griffey, probably better than this other one, but I think they're relatively similar because this one is a DH or a corner outfielder, and he's going to be a defensive liability if you do decide to actually put him in the outfield. But 80 contact left, 98 contact right, 90 power left, 100 power right, 82 clutch, and then 72 reaction with 56 speed. So he's more of like an Adam Dunn, Aaron Judge type player, or honestly, I think you can bump him up just because of the bat. Yeah, he's going to be really bad defensively, but at the end of the day, it's Griffey. He's going to have that Griffey swing that's kind of unaffected lefty-lefty. He's going to have the insane quirks. He's going to hit some balls out that he probably shouldn't hit out because it's Griffey, and you can kind of put up with the defense just because it's Griffey. This 95 Griffey, probably top of A tier. Honestly, the contacts don't improve too much, but the defense does. So 88 contact left, 92 right, 115 left, 100 right power-wise, 87 clutch, a gold fielder with halfway decent reaction, and 70 speed. Again, you are not putting this card in center field, but as a corner outfielder, it's going to be hard for you to get a much better one at this point of the season. Come Team Affinity and come the next drop of like BR and Ranked Rewards, I'm sure this card will be easily outclassed. But as like a left fielder or a right fielder, this card's really good. Schwarber. He's all right. He's fine. It's Schwarber. You know what you're getting into. Great swing. 81 contact left, 102 right, 118 power left, 125 right. That might be one of the highest Schwarber powers we've ever seen. 100 clutch. But here's the downside. 54 fielding, 52 reaction, 45 speed. Might be the worst defensive player on the list so far. I'm sure Jordan will be worse than him. This card's a DH. He's going to absolutely rake. Do not get it twisted, but this card's a DH. I'm going to rank him as so. Because I think with Judge, you can make the argument that he's really tall, so that kind of increases his range and stuff. I think with Dunn, you can make the argument that, I don't know, honestly. Dunn's probably a little better than Schwarber on defense, but not much. Those two are cards where you kind of rank them as a DH because you're really a madman if you're running them in the outfield. So I think that's just kind of where Schwarber belongs. And honestly, you could maybe make the argument for S tier, but I think the contact left's kind of holding him back. Kyle Tucker on paper looks a lot like this 91 Griffey, if I'm not mistaken. 79, 81, 89, 94, 80 clutch, but halfway respectable fielding. But the reaction's really bad. I don't know why they always do this. Honestly, I think it's worth dropping him a tier. Always has a really good swing, but oh my, having that bad of reaction with being that slow and not really being a plus bat per se. Can't do it. Can't do it. I don't think he sneaks into the B tier. Larry Walker, pretty solid. Doesn't have the power that 99 did. That 99 didn't have the craziest power in the world. But 103 contact left, 92 right, 78 power left, 73 power right, 100 clutch, but a good fielder. It's hard to find good defensive outfielders. This is your guy. If you're on like Hall of Fame, if you're on Legend, and you need a good defensive right fielder that also kind of the contact keeps up with your rank, Larry Walker, he's here for you. He's a very solid option. Maybe if you're on All-Star, there's better options, but on Hall of Fame and Legend, this is one of your better candidates for right field. Almost makes me want to put him in S tier. We'll see how the rest of the list comes around, and then we'll kind of revisit him. Leote, I think his swing's super underrated. I think you can easily run him with a lot of these other guys. Again, kind of funny, he falls in with the other switch hitters where their stats are probably behind the curve for this point of the season, but they're switch hitters, and they're hard to find, and it doesn't really matter because Leote has a really good swing also, and he's pretty good defensively. 84 speed, 87 reaction as a primary center fielder. Pretty good. If you need a defensive outfielder that's a switch hitter that you can just bat ninth in your lineup and sometimes he'll surprise you, he's a good bat for that. La Pantera, Luis Robert, supposedly about to get traded. We'll have to see. Has maybe the worst swing in the game. I say it every time I see this card, and just can't touch righties. 73 contact right, 76 power right. Not the greatest clutch in the world, but he is really good defensively. 85 speed in center field, 81 reaction, 95 fielding. Kind of inflates his overall. I wish they kind of gave that more so to reaction and speed. But defensively, he's all right. I think he's C tier, honestly, just because of the swing and how putrid he is against righties. I don't think I can rank him too much higher. Ozuna goes in this DH tier, where if you want a right-handed kind of Kyle Schwarber type of bat, maybe a little more contact. 109 contact left, 90 contact right, 75 power left. So that's kind of the biggest detraction from this card. But you saw a card like Larry Walker has that against both sides, and I still think he's pretty solid. 110 power right, 106 clutch. But again, just absolutely brutal in the field. He is a pure DH. You are not running this card in the outfield. Mark Canha, Tigers legend, Mark Canha. He's really bad against one side, if I remember properly. 65 contact left, 116 against righty, so that's really good. 88 power left, 99 power right, 88 clutch. Not the best fielder in the world. 77 reaction, 60 speed. So if you play him in, you are not playing. Never mind. Okay, yeah, you're not playing him in his center field role, so I think that drops him. Because you're gonna have to play him either as a DH, which is whatever, you're using him for the bat at that point, or you're putting him in a corner outfield spot where he's going to lose 5 more reaction on top of that. I think that kind of drops him. But he always has a swing that a lot of people like. And if you're on lower ranked tiers, you can definitely run that card. On All-Star, you will be more than fine with that card running left field for you, right field for you. Just keep him out center, please. I beg. Matt Holliday. Maybe S tier. I think I want to go top of A just to be safe right now. But a very solid card. 90 contact left, 114 right, 86 power left, 80 against righties, 101 clutch, and not the worst fielder in the world. 75 reaction, 65 speed. Also has a lot of good quirks. I think he might be S tier. I'm not too sure who I'd rather have in left field. Probably Bregman. But we'll just kind of see as the list goes on. Very solid card, especially for how much he costs out the rank program. Absolute steal. This Muncy card, probably just C tier, because, you know, I'm not even going to rank him as a DH because I think he has much more value as like a second baseman or a third baseman, rather than sticking him in the outfield. 67 contact left, 90 contact right, 106 power left, really good. 117 power right, exquisite. That's so good. 71 clutch, womp womp. That kind of sinks the card right there. 65 reaction, 62 speed. So just really bad defensively in the outfield, and then doesn't bring you a whole lot more. This is another card where if you're on All-Star, this card will be a god for you. I promise. I have never used a Max Muncy that I haven't liked. His swing is absolute fire. He has a very nice bat flip also. Bonus points for that. So I'm a huge fan of Max Muncy cards, but this just ain't it. And I think he has a lot more value as like a Brandon Lau type of player at second base, bringing power to a position that usually doesn't have it. Live series Mike Trout, probably A tier, honestly, really usable still in the meta. Probably not S tier like he was day one of the season, but 87 contact left, 78 contact right, 86 power left, 114 against righties. The clutch is really bad. The reaction's really bad, but he's fast, so it kind of makes up for it. And it's not like there's that many good defensive outfielders in the game right now anyway. However, this new 97 Mike Trout, a little bit of a different story. You can see 101 against lefties, 97 right, 100 left, 104 right, 115 clutch, 88 fielding, 97 speed, 85 reaction. This card's crazy. This is a very, very good card. The only downside of this card that I can think of is his swing might be different. I'm not sure. Hopefully not. Hopefully they didn't do a repeat of last year. The only downside I can think of with this card is it means we're not getting another 99 Trout this season. Unless SDS gets really desperate and runs out of content ideas, we're not getting a 99 Trout this season. We're going to have to look into the future for that. But potential wild card candidate for next season already. So absolute dog there. Big fan of that card. One of the better ranked rewards we've probably gotten all year. Mookie, probably A tier, honestly. Really bad defensively, like insanely slow. What is it? 53 speed, 74 reaction, but a decent fielder with a halfway decent arm. Really, if you're using Mookie at this point, it's probably because you already have him super fractured. Let's be honest. Most people that have Mookie have him at a high parallel level. 108 contact, 98 contact right, 70 power left, 81 power right, 122 clutch. So really you're using him for the contact and the clutch. It's going to carry him on those higher difficulties like Hall of Fame and Legend. But I will say after the last update, the power is noticeable. Before on Mookie, the quirks just kind of took the wheel, and it was like he didn't even really lose that much power after the update. Now I feel like it's pretty noticeable. To be honest, it's pretty noticeable. I have had quite a few. So he still hit some no-doubters that he probably shouldn't have just because of the quirks. Don't get it twisted. But not as many, and it's very noticeable. You kind of got to be hit more perfects with the card, which, isn't necessarily a downside because, you should be good at the game and want to get rewarded for that. But Mookie was a scam merchant. He was a quirks merchant a little bit before the update. Now you got to be a little better with him. Castellanos, oof. Not a huge fan of the swing on this card. I don't know if it's the exact same as that flashback card that we got. 108 contact left, 90 contact right, 90 power left, 78 power right, 100 clutch. Just kind of poor in the outfield, but not super poor as to drop him to B tier. It just kind of depends on how much you like his swing. It's not my favorite one in the world, but if you've already used this card a lot and put a lot of parallels on him and you enjoy him, then, I can see the argument for running him. Paul O'Neill, I've heard, has a very good swing, but the stats are not very good. 91 overall, 71 contact left, 85 contact right, 102 power left, 105 power right, 72 clutch. Kind of poor in the outfield. Just doesn't really do anything super well other than hit home runs, which is a home run derby card, so what do you really expect? I think that just kind of lands him in the B tier, where he's fine. He's not as much of like an all-star merchant as like Max Muncy or El Bombi is, but also not really a great card either. But I heard his swing's really good, so I think that's enough to kind of differentiate him from those other guys. Palmeiro, probably just top of B tier, right? Really good swing, and if you're using them, it's probably because you already have him super fractured and you really enjoy his swing and all the quirks and whatnot. But you gotta really rake with this card. For how awful he is in the outfield defensively, you gotta really rake with this card to kind of offset the value. He's gonna be much better for 95% of people at first base or DH. But it is cool that you have the option of sticking him in the outfield. Just not something I would personally probably do. Lands him in B tier. Ralph Kiner. Do we even need to think of this card? Easy C tier off the top of the head. Ralph Kiner always has just a yucky swing in the game. 104 contact left, 86 against righties, 98 power left, 105 power right, 80 clutch. Knew there had to be something. This card was sounding so good up until that point. So bad swing, bad clutch, and wow, like one of the worst fielders on the list so far. 59 fielding, 58 reaction, 44 speed. There's a reason he's 9,000 stubs. But if you can look past the absolutely horrendous swing and you just kind of look at the stats and the quirks that he has, you can probably make this card work. He's probably more of like a DH or something, rather than a pure outfielder. Randy Arozarena, hell, whatever, just kind of lost in the shuffle. Very similar to Morel, stats wise, and kind of when he came out and how he's just kind of looked over at this point. 109 contact left, 88 contact right, 100 power against both sides, 110 clutch. Not very good in the field. So 60 reaction, 88 speed. The speed will kind of help it a little bit. You can play him as primary left field. For me personally, Randy always has just yucky swings in the game, but if you enjoy Randy cards historically, you can probably get some really good life out of this one. I don't think I would prefer him in left field, but if you want to make the argument that he's your go-to left fielder, I could see that. Richie Sexton, very similar, probably C tier, because like if you're gonna run him in the outfield, you might as well run Palmeiro in the outfield. I think Palmeiro's going to be a better bat for most people, but if you have this Richie Sexton, chances are you already put some parallels on him. You enjoy him a lot. Maybe fitting him into your lineup is best in the outfield, but I don't think that applies to a lot of people. Definitely better as a DH, definitely better as a first baseman historically. This 89 Acuna, I think he's probably just A tier at this point. His stats have kind of fallen behind. When this card came out, he was a god. Not really there anymore. 87 contact left, 81 contact right, 90 power left, 80 power right, 103 clutch, 73 reaction, 92 speed, so that's a plus, and he plays a primary of left field. So if you want to play him in left field, he's probably better than the live series. Other than that, maybe you would prefer the live series over this card. But really, he's carried by a swing. None of the stats I just read out, other than the speed, really pop out on paper. But he has Ronald Acuna's swing, and that's always a plus, and it's always going to make the card play better. Speaking of Ronald Acuna, we have the live series. Definitely has a little more contact, I believe. 81 left, 96 right. You're losing some power. The clutch, I believe, is worse. The fielding isn't necessarily great. The reaction, not necessarily great. The speed, not necessarily great. So I think all things considered, B tier. I think he's worse than this rookie one, which is crazy. Just kind of shows you how they min-max stats in the game. They give one card really high discipline, and that kind of limits what they can put other stats into. And then they give one card just absolutely miserable discipline, and they add 10 power to each side, and better speed and better reaction. So just kind of an example of how two cards can look more or less the same overall wise and just be absolutely way different in game. Royce Lewis, not a card you are looking to play in the outfield. I think he's A tier because the bat's really good. A lot of people really enjoy his swing. The fact he can play him in left, center, or right. You're a madman if you play this man in center field. But in a corner spot, it's going to be really hard to get a better outfielder than this guy right now. I think he's probably S tier just for the bat, honestly. So 116 left, 90 right, 103 left, 115 right power-wise, 103 clutch, 77 reaction, 46 speed. So the speed's the real issue with this card. But definitely bat-wise, you can argue, should be up there. One of the better hitters in the game right now. If you want to run him in left field, he won't be quite as bad as like a guy like Aaron Judge will be. And you can argue the bat's just as good, if not better. So Stephen Kwan, probably C tier. Really, there's one niche situation where I could see you using this card, and that's if you are a recent All-Star player that just got promoted to Hall of Fame, or if you're a Hall of Fame player that had the unfortunate circumstance to end up on Legend, and you're not used to it. You might want a card that has this high of contacts with kind of that short, compact swing. But let's be real, 35 power, 58 power, not going to play. Just not going to play. He's not a bad defender, but he's also not good because he has 78 speed. Just not my favorite card in the world. Maybe it's your favorite card if you invested in him. I don't think too many people are going to use that card in game. Teo, maybe even C tier. When this card came out, he was solid, but that's because the competition was lacking. There's no world where you use this guy over Acuna unless it's like a late game pinch hitter type situation. 104 contact left, 113 power left, with 95 clutch, and that's all you kind of need to know about that card. He's just a lefty hitter that has a slap swing. So if you need that, maybe think of throwing him on the bench. I don't think you're starting him though. Tim Raines, this is an interesting card. At second base, really good. In the outfield, not so much. 113 contact left, 97 contact right, 52 power left. That is brutal. 66 power right. So that's why I'm saying he's better at second base. You kind of expect those power numbers more at second base. And I believe he's a corner outfielder, not a center fielder. Yeah, so he's actually going to lose reaction, which I believe is not necessarily the best on this card. So he's going to go to 75 reaction, 91 speed. So still one of the better defensive center fielders, but absolutely brutal power-wise with the bat. I think that puts him maybe top of B tier. Maybe you can argue if you need that switch hitter and you need that defensive replacement. He's basically like a better version of Leody Taveras, but I don't think that necessarily gets him into A tier. Trey Turner, probably just bottom of A tier. The bat's really good, right? Trey Turner always has a really, really, really good swing in the game. And his contacts are still in a good spot, even at this point in the season. 125 left, 93 right, 98 power left is in a good spot. 65 power right is tough. If you're hitting perfects, you're probably good. If you're not, it's going to be a struggle, especially if you don't play at high elevation parks. But 100 clutch left, 99 speed, obviously. The problem is the reaction. It's going to go to 71 if you do play him in center field, which is his only defensive spot he can play in the outfield. But not a bad card by any means. I said this card would age well. I believe he has. Definitely a solid card there. This Mancini, absolutely great with the bat for a captain card. This card is crazy with the bat. 86, 96, 91 power right, 103 power left with 88 clutch. The fielding's kind of rough. 65 reaction with 42 speed. Definitely not ideal, but really has more value as like a first baseman, but he's here and he's a good bat if you do want to still use that card. Vlad, easily S tier. The defense on this card is pretty brutal. I believe his power against one side is kind of bad, but 109 contact left, 105 contact right, 115 power left, 75 power right. So again, kind of tiptoeing in that Larry Walker, Trey Turner territory where you might get scammed a decent amount. But you put up with that for the clutch being this high and the arm strength being this high and the reaction not being the worst. So you're going to play him as primary of right field most likely. So he'll have that 70 reaction. He'll have 63 speed. A very good card. And people always love Vlad in game. He always has a really good swing that a lot of people love. Probably my pick for right field right now. If you don't have Babe or if you're playing Babe at other positions, he's probably your go-to right fielder. Willie Castro. So this card's a second baseman, so he's going to lose reaction. He already has 74, so you're looking at 69. Nice. 86 speed. This is basically just an upgrade version of the gold card. From the gold card earlier in the year, this is basically a direct upgrade. The power's not in the best spot, except they juice against lefties, and he still has that really high clutch. So if you enjoyed the gold card earlier in the year, this card's going to be an absolute monster for you. Maybe even S tier. Honestly, if you want to play this card in the left, even though the reaction's not going to be very good, having that switch hitting ability and that great swing and being more or less fast, like 86 speed kind of makes up for the reaction most of the time. Sometimes he will get such a bad jump that the speed won't matter, but for the most part, he can make up for the bad reaction. Wilson Contreras, don't think you should be playing this card in the outfield. Technically, you can. But I don't think you should. 106, 95, 93, 75 with 103 clutch. Good arm, but, that's because he's a catcher. 65 reaction, 64 speed. So maybe I was a little harsh. probably just top of B tier. If you ask me, I would prefer not to play this card in the outfield just because he's a catcher. But it's definitely doable, and when you compare him with Judge, I can see the argument. But for me, Judge has a better swing. Adam Dunn has a better swing. Who else is a defensive liability here? Ozuna, you're never playing in the outfield. At least with Wilson, you're considering it. Ozuna, I'm ranking straight as a DH. And then Schwarber, I'd rather use Schwarber in the outfield just because of the bat, to be honest. So, Yandy Diaz, this is a solid card, honestly, in the outfield. If you are a Hall of Fame player or a Legend player, this card's super slept on. He's not a good outfielder defensively, but 116 contact left, 100 contact right, 104 power left, 54 power right. So maybe you think of like platooning him or something. 117 clutch, 68 fielding, 76 reaction, 48 speed. So not the fastest player by any means, but if you need a high contact outfielder, maybe you're still running the Nolan team, something like that. He could be that guy. I don't think he makes Nolan, but I'm sure there's a team that he makes. And then Jordan. This card has fallen off quite a bit. I think gut reaction is probably just bottom of A tier as a DH. You're not running this card in the outfield. 104 contact left, so that's a dub because that is going to be your hardest at bats with Jordan. Obviously, that's going to be your hardest at bats with Jordan. Is the lefty at bat, so it's nice to have that higher contact, especially when you're going to face guys on Hall of Fame and Legend with them that are just spamming away sliders and cutters and stuff like that shrink your PCI. It's nice to have the bigger PCI against the lefties. And then 88 power left, 110 power right. The clutch, man, the clutch is brutal. I think that's going to drop him as a DH, honestly. And obviously in the field, he's absolutely terrible. But 72 clutch is really hard to use, honestly. Unless you have a captain that boosts that dramatically, I don't know if Jordan's that guy at DH anymore. And I think that's our list. So let's just copy this. Link will be in the description if you want to re-go over it. But to just go through our S tier real quick, I think it's... I want Bregman up there. Honestly, a little crazy here. I think I dropped Bregman. And I think I'd rather still use this 95 Griffey in left field over Bregman. I think if you're running the best lineup in the game, I think Griffey's in left field no matter what, to be honest. Even the 99, you're probably running Trout in center and then running Griffey in left, and Vlad or Royce Lewis in right. But our S tier is Babe, obviously. Chipper Jones, Griffey's 99, Griffey's 95, Mike Trout, the new 97 ranked reward, 95 Royce Lewis, the new season award, the new BR award, Vlad Guerrero, and then 94 season award, Willie Castro, who you can get in packs right now. So that's always fun. But link will be down in the description if you do want to review this, if you don't want to rewatch the entire video. Till next time, guys.